So, Mija, what is that? Mija, what is that? Huh? What is that? This is what she's afraid of.
It's taken me a little time to get up this video, but this is my trip to New Mexico from during my spring break. I'd always wanted to visit this place, so I took this chance. I took along one of my rescue pups, Mia, who turned out to be a great companion and took very quickly to hotel life by selecting her bed. Being someone from the flatlands, it's always a thrill to see the mountains for the first time. And on the second day of my trip, I arrived in New Mexico, the land of enchantment. While I was staying in Santa Fe, my first day was actually spent in Los Alamos. I'm a huge history buff, and I really wanted to see the place where the atomic bomb was envisioned. So I kind of entered from the rear of the visitor center, as that's where my GPS took me. Here you can see some of the elements of a very detailed walking exhibit that the city does very well for visitors. Most of us are familiar with Los Alamos as the site where the Manhattan Project worked to create the atomic bomb, but the area was known prior to that as, you can see from this display, as a bustling ranching area. In fact, the buildings used for the Manhattan Project were originally built as part of the Los Alamos Ranch School. I just got the biggest kick out of this Chamber of Commerce sign there for Los Alamos and the Bandelier National Monument. Here you can see the Visitor Center. And then across from that is the Memorial Rose Garden. The Rose Garden was created in 1947 by members of the Los Alamos Garden Club. There was no cemetery there at the time, so the rose bushes were planted to remember those who had died. So here you can see again the Visitor Center. Over there I believe is parking. Get you straight to the door. I had wanted to go in here and get a walking map. I had seen them online, and so here's the History Museum, apparently a guest cottage at one time for the ranch school. And here's the walking map that I was talking about. It's very nice, very well done. And when I say walking, it's not hard walking, and it doesn't take you all day. Behind the museum is Fuller Lodge. This was originally the ranch school dining hall, later served for nurses and staff quarters, and currently it serves as a public cultural events center. I just loved this quote. Whenever things went wrong at Los Alamos, and there was never a day when they didn't, we had one consolation. We had a view. And I have to say, the view up there was absolutely stunning. Just gorgeous. Across the street was Ashley Pond. This was a natural pond. It was deepened by the ranch school and then was used for fire suppression during the Manhattan Project. And you can see that all the buildings surrounded the pond then. The former ranch school ice house is where the core of the bomb was developed for the Manhattan Project before it was then taken to the Trinity test site, which is near Alamogordo, 200 miles south. And during the Manhattan Project, the ice house was actually surrounded by the lab. It was torn down in 1957, but some of the original stone remains in the memorial. Here we can see a picture of Dr. Robert Oppenheimer. He was the first director of the Manhattan Project, and he's with General Leslie Groves, the Manhattan Engineer District, who directed the national effort. The twisted metal that you can see at their feet in the picture is all that was left of a 100-foot tower on which the first nuclear weapon was tested on July 16th, 1945. The ice house was torn down in 1957, and most of the buildings actually from the Manhattan Project are gone today, so Ashley Pond is now a community park. And another part of town then is Bathtub Row. The homes in this area were built for the Los Alamos Ranch School, mostly for faculty. Because the Manhattan Project buildings were only meant to last for the duration of the war that made this homes on the street seem luxurious by comparison. And other than one women's dormitory, they had the only bathtubs in town, so thus the name Bathtub Row. The former home of Oppenheimer is at the corner of Bathtub Row and Peach Street here. Most of the homes are private property and closed to the public, including Oppenheimer's home. Another part of the tour included this sculpture called Touch the Sky, which was dedicated to victims of a May 2000 fire called the Cerro Grande Fire. It began as a controlled burn in Bandelier National Monument, but some really high winds carried the fire into Los Alamos, forced the evacuation of more than 400 families who lost their homes. The laboratory, which is actually still in town, it's just moved to the edge, did manage to any potential threat to radiological materials. There was no loss of human life, though. I just found this sculpture stunning there with the backdrop of the mountain. After the city tour, I decided I'd give Mia a treat, and I found this trail just on the edge of the city called the Canyon Rim Trail. It's a nicely paved trail. It was easy to access, easy to walk, and it offered a great view of the area. Just stunning. So enjoy. I just found Los Alamos to be more stunning than I even imagined, and I'd love to explore the area more. The drive up was as beautiful as this drive down. The next day, I spent the day in Santa Fe and started out with a walk for me and myself. I'm sorry I don't remember the name of this trail. You can see that it's not quite the mountainous mesa beauty of Los Alamos, but it just was the old Santa Fe Trail to me. I enjoyed it a lot. Nice and quiet out there. It also gives me a chance, a gal from the Midwest, to just see some of the unique desert landscape and plants that grow naturally there. So many I hadn't even seen before, I couldn't begin to name. This one was beautiful, it was flowering. And of course, Mia was able to find things to explore that were new as well. After the walk, we went down to the Santa Fe Plaza and the Palace of Governors just to take a little stroll around this very unique historical part of town. It was really a lovely day to do it as well. Lots of people out. One site I really wanted to see was the Cathedral Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi, and of course I had to get a photo of my rescue pup there. And back behind the basilica was this nice garden, and they had some really cute sculptures there. In fact, a lot of sculptures in town. Mia wasn't too impressed with that one. Of course, no trip to Santa Fe is complete without seeing the Laredo Chapel and its miraculous stairway. If you don't know about it, the story goes that in 1873, the Sisters of Laredo began construction of a chapel. The architect died before access to the choir loft was built. Because of the height of the loft and the small size of the chapel, a staircase would have taken up too much floor space, reducing the seating capacity too much. The sisters prayed a novena to St. Joseph, the patron saint of carpenters. A novena is a special prayer said for 9 consecutive days. On the final day of the novena, a carpenter appeared with only a hammer and a carpenter's square. He built what is now known as the miraculous staircase. The rare wood is not native to the American Southwest. When the staircase was completed, the carpenter disappeared without thanks or payment, and the sisters could never find out who he was or where the supplies came from. Some believe the carpenter was St. Joseph himself. The staircase has 2 complete 360-degree turns with no center pole for structural support. The entire weight of the staircase rests on the bottom stairs. The banisters were added about 10 years later due to the difficulty of climbing it with no railing. I also had to try a bit of the native food, of course. There was a taco truck right outside my hotel, so I snatched this. Absolutely delicious. But then it was time to head home, but a stop in Kansas on the way. I'm a huge fan of true crime, and I think it all started with Truman Capote's book In Cold Blood. So I made a detour to Garden City, where the Finney County Historical Museum had an exhibit on crime in the county, including information about the murders of the Clutter family that are featured in Capote's book. Such a sad story, such needless violence.